present colors.
Ready, begin.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Carry colors. Forward, march.
Please be seated. Good evening and welcome to the North Torrance Homeowners Association General Meeting. My name is Marianne Hamada and I am the president. It's great to see all of you and thank you for coming this evening. We'd like to thank the North Torrance Junior ROTC under the leadership of Raul Duran for beginning our meetings with the professional flag salute. On behalf of the North Torrance Homeowners Association, we'd like to grant you this donation, Raul. Okay, so any officials in the audience here this evening? No. Okay. I'd like to introduce the North Torrance Homeowners Association Board of Directors. Rita Anderson, Secretary. Glenn Terry, Treasurer. Zora Muhammad, Director at Large. Dr. Anil Muhammad, Director at Large. Terry Fury, First Vice President, and Brandon Batson could not be here with us tonight. We are also welcoming back Jesse Negrete, Director at Large. And Kurt Wiederman is a Director at Large who's going to be joining our board as well. Our annual treasurer report is posted at the review for your review. Also tonight's meeting, we have a sponsor, Glasspan Real Estate. Alan, thank you very much. Gloria's in the back. So tonight is our candidate forum for the Torrance Unified School Board District. As the moderator, it is my job to keep the forum running smooth. I'm not a censor, and I do not decide what is true or what is false. We would appreciate if you would keep your applause until the end of the evening, and if you can also keep the chatter to a minimum. Our questionnaires are Rita Anderson and Rebecca Terry in the middle. And we're ready to begin.
Okay, we're going to start with opening statements. You have 1 minute and a half. And Mr. Gerson.
My name is Jeremy Gerson. My wife, Jennifer, and I have been married approximately 13 years and own a home in the central part of Torrance. We have a 5th grade daughter and a 2nd grade son who both attend school in Torrance Unified. I came to Torrance with my family in 1986, so I've been a resident for 32 years. I am a graduate of Torrance High School. I am a Tartar. I used to participate in the City of Torrance summer musicals back when they were in the Marseille Auditorium. When the Torrance Rose Float Association decided to start putting residents on the floats, they chose 1 male and 1 female. I was the privileged guy who represented our city on the Pasadena Tournament of Roses. The Torrance Sister City Association chose me as their 44th adult leader to represent us in Kashiwa, Japan. The PTA last year gave me the Honorary Service Award. I've done countless hours of volunteering, more than 20 years for AYSO, multiple years for Torrance Little League, Boy Scouts of America for my son, even at our children's school, running enrichment sessions. Last year I did financial literacy sessions and our children took 1st and 2nd in LA County in the stock market game. I've served on 2 different PTAs. I've served on countless school and district committees, including the Mathematics Achievement Committee, Textbook Adoption Committee.
Thank you very much. Ms. Deutsch?
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present to the North Homeowners Association. I also want to thank audience members and my fellow candidates for the commitment to our schools. 6 years ago, I had the honor of being appointed to the school board, and 5 years ago, I was elected to the school board as the #1 vote getter. Over the last 6 years, I am very proud of my accomplishments as a school board member. We launched and gained approval of historic bond measures that included funds for upgrading security at schools, improving technology in the classrooms, gyms in the middle schools, science labs at elementary schools, auditoriums at the high schools, and just recently the aquatic center district-wide. Our schools have undergone a dramatic physical improvement for the first time in almost 50 years during my tenure as a school board member. We have improved the curriculum, expanded teacher training, and achieved a level of academic excellence that is one of the highest in the state of California. The reason that I want to continue as a school board member is that I am passionate and committed to seeing our schools continue to improve and enhance student learning and seeing our schools continue to be a model to other districts for our efficiency, effectiveness, fiscal responsibility, and leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hahn?
Well, first of all, I want to thank all of you for coming. It's hot in here, so thank you for putting up with this craziness. And so, well, welcome. And I want to say what a privilege it is for me to sit with all these people here. My name is James Hahn, and I'm married to my beautiful wife, Sora. She's an RTI teacher in the Torrance Unified School District. I have 3 children. A freshman at Torrance High School, a 7th grader at Hull Middle School, and a 5th grader at Adams Elementary School. My wife and I are committed to our schools. We have served our schools in so many different fashions, in different committees, different organizations. I organized a golf tournament for our school for the past 8 years. I've been on school site council. I was given the Honorary Service Award 4 years ago. You name it, we've done everything we could for our little school, Adams, as well as Hull. And now we're excited that our son's at Torrance High. At the same time, my vision for our school district is very simple. First of all, success. I want to see every child to achieve success in whatever field that they choose, whether athletics, academia, arts, whatever it may be, but to help them to achieve that success. The other thing that I want to see is safety. Obviously, we want to make sure that our kids are safe and secure in their schools, especially in light of all that's going on in other schools around the nation. I thought it's very important that we make sure our kids are safe and secure so that they can be successful. And lastly, to be stable, not only today, but for many years to come, so future students can continue to grow as well.
Thank you. Ms. Liu?
Good evening. My name is Betty Liu. I'd like to start out with thanking the North Torrance Homeowners Association and President Marianne Hamada for putting on this wonderful candidates forum for all of us. And for you, the audience, for willing to spend the evening with us, to get to know us before you vote, and also to educate us on the issues that you care about. And definitely, I want to commend my fellow candidates here who are willing to put themselves out there and perform public service for all of us. So thank you to you all. I'm running for school board because I want to make sure that our students are prepared to take on the opportunities and the challenges of the 21st century. We need to make sure that our students have all the skills they need for this changing economy, and such as automation, a lot more coding, and various different fields that's coming out right now. As a longtime volunteer, I help students prepared for what I can as a volunteer for the future. I have started 2 math competition clubs at 2 different schools. I've taught art and music, and volunteered as a librarian. I've always been the chair of the after school enrichment program, and I've served on 2 PTAs at 2 different schools, and also I'm on the executive board of Torrance Education Foundation. So thank you. I look forward to your questions tonight. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Mr. Wormers?
I too would like to thank everyone for being here. It is a little warm and uncomfortable. My name is Michael Wormers, and I'm currently in my 2nd term on the school board. My wife and I have 3 daughters, one of which has graduated from our schools, 2 of which are still in our schools. Before I started down this path, I was a typical PTA dad and moved and lifted and carried heavy things. I was not satisfied with the results of that effort, so I went ahead and joined the Ed Foundation and was part of the team that put together the South Bay Enrichment Academy, the SBA, in its very first year. I'm the one who helped start that. So these are very awkward. You always do sit here and you brag. I'm not comfortable with these. Because of my involvement with my local homeowners association and Mayor Scotto's SunCal committee, I was recruited to work on the first school bonds, measures Y and Z. Because of that effort, I received an honorary service award from the PTA. I'm proud of that work. We did good things. We got school bonds passed, which we hadn't been able to do in this community for a while, and I'm very proud of the work that's been done with that. During this time, I became a City of Torrance Library Commissioner because I feel there's nothing more important than teaching our children how to read. I held that position for 2 years until I got elected on the school board. Needless to say, I'm deeply involved with the City of Torrance and its school district. I've been, like I said, twice, 2 years, now 2 terms, 9 years on our school board. So I'd like to think we've done good work and done good things, and I hope to get your support to do it again. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The first question for you all is following up on what you've just talked about, your opening statements. What in that you spoke about, the education, training, and or experience that you talked about most qualifies you to be an effectively serve on the school board? And I'll start with Ms. Deutsch.
I guess my strong PTA leadership. I actually started as a room parent and Adventures in Art docent, and I started as a PTA president at the Riviera Elementary School at South High School. I went up to the Torrance Council of PTAs, and I was president there. I'm currently 33rd District PTA president that oversees a total of 20 school district PTAs in Southern California. I'm also part of the board of managers for the California State PTA. I find that my exposure to PTA has given me incredible wide range of education in terms of advocating for children and students, and how I can go to Sacramento and speak with local politicians and talk about what specifically is our local priorities. So that I find that that's important to me.
Thank you. And Ms. Liu, same question.
Thank you for asking the question. I believe that of all the things that most qualifies me to be on the board here on Torrance Unified School District is my long time, over 10 plus years as a volunteer being on the grounds at the schools and at different schools. I also started out as a room mom when my son was in preppy. And for those of you who don't know, preppy is a pre-K when you're almost ready for you're old enough to be in kindergarten, but well, no, you're just barely old enough to be in kindergarten, but then you're going to be too young, and so there's a choice for you to go into a pre-kindergarten class here in Torrance Unified School District. So I started preppy, and I also went on to volunteer as a docent for Adventures in Art. I served on that for several years, teaching music, teaching art, also, like I mentioned, music, and also was on the PTA board, executive board for several years. I have more on my flyers, please pick one up. Thank you.
Mr. Gerson.
I think first is my experience and my work experience. So this is my 21st year as a teacher and my 16th year as a teacher in Torrance Unified School District. Not only have I served on, as I was indicating, countless committees both at the school and district site, but I've watched over the last decade and a half as we implemented these programs. And I know what they look like in the classroom, and I know how they turn out. It gives me a perspective of being able, as a teacher, to sit on the board and actually go, well, this is what it would really look like in a classroom. Also, my education. So my bachelor's degree and master's degree were both at Whittier College, which is a great teacher school. And then on to my doctorate. I'm working on it at the University of Southern California. I think about the leadership class and the accountability class, and understanding how politics has been working on teachers and on parents, and now it's my turn to come and bring that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hunt.
For me, for those of you who do not know, I'm the senior pastor of Redeemer Presbyterian Church. I have 2 sites in LA and Lomita. And I think one of the reasons why I highlight that is because of the fact that the quality that I think that, because what I do and how I can be effectual in the board, is to bring about conflict resolution. I think that the biggest issue now confronting our board and our teachers is trust. We need someone to be able to bridge that gap, someone that's good at reconciliation, not about who's right and who's wrong, but to bring people together. And I think that's one of the gifts I have as a preacher, because that's what I do. That's my job, is to bring reconciliation in many different ways between God and people one another and within with society itself. And so because of that, I'm able to hear and understand and try to figure out, not compromise, but to come into a loving resolve where we all can be excited about the decision we make together. Not about what we're giving up, but what we're going to gain together. And I think that's the gift that I have to bring to the board.
Thank you. And Mr. Warmers.
Thank you. I have the unique situation where I sign the front of a paycheck, and when we were working on measures Y and Z, and we realized it was going to be $250 million pulled out of this community and dumped into the school district, I wanted to be involved. I was concerned about people who were running who weren't involved. They didn't have their kids even in school. I'm the only one still on the board with kids in school. That might change this cycle, but that's part of the reason I ran. And I felt my business knowledge proves useful, and it has. I've got a bit of a construction background, so working with Balfour Beatty has been an interesting experience. They can deliver sometimes they don't, and I've called them on it more times than I care to count. My ability to work inside of an organization like TUSD is a part of my day job. I work inside large companies, so it's been interesting to see that I can tell you we're really good at not spending money on unnecessary seats, because I watch companies do that. 2, 1, there.
Thank you.
That's nerve-wracking.
Okay, thank you. Here's question number 2. Are you satisfied with the current security and safety conditions of our schools? And if not, how would you improve them? And Mr. Warmers, you're first.
Am I satisfied? We're improving it as we speak. We're installing cameras and door locks and keypad entries at all of our schools. That's in the process of going in. I used to sell security systems and maintain security systems, put a card in a slot and a door unlocks. I can tell you that what we're putting in is a good idea, and it's useful and it's helpful. It will not save us from a maniac with a gun, but it will keep upset people out of our school campuses. I repeat to people on a regular basis, even though no one wants to hear this, you stand a better chance of choking on a hot dog than being shot on a school site. Just mathematically, that's how it works. But that being said, we need to step up and quit living in denial about what an active shooter situation looks like. We're in the process of reevaluating some of our procedures, because one of those procedures need to change, that if a school active shooting situation arrives, a teacher is going to have to sweep through the hallway and gather up the kids, and they may not be able to get into a safe room. That's something we don't want to talk about. That's part of the denial that we're not admitting.
Thank you. Mr. Hahn?
For me, as a result of me having my kids attend the schools that they go to, so far what I've noticed, again, limited experience, that I do feel like my kids are safe. I think they've done a lot better job of securing up the security around our schools. For example, at Adams, we have our new gates. At Hall, they're putting in a new system as well. I think that they're putting steps in place in order for kids to feel safer. But I think so often we focus so much on the outward threat rather than thinking about the inward threat. I think so often safety is not only physical safety, but I think there's an issue of emotional safety and things like that. I think that a lot of kids still feel a sense of insecurity, bullying at their local schools. And I think that we need to do a better job of addressing those issues. Physically, we can only do so much. Like you said, we cannot prevent every maniac killer out there. But what we can focus on is helping the students learn how to work with each other, get along with each other, to encourage one another.
Thank you. Ms. Liu?
Yes, hi, thank you. I do also appreciate the new gates and security measures that our district has put on for all our schools. I think it is, in the beginning I didn't like the way it looked, but then I realized that the gates around our school do tend to slightly discourage a potential a violent person from going in. And also I understand that our schools are now on lockdown, or at least the gates to the school are locked, other than the beginning of the school day and at the end of the school day when we have to get our kids or when the kids have to leave. However, I am definitely against arming teachers with guns. I do not believe that guns should be anywhere on campus at our schools. I understand that there are a lot of opinion out there in regards to arming our teachers, but I do not think I do believe that would do more harm than good. And in additionally, I do think that we need to do all that we can to give a sense of security to both our students and our parents and our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gerson?
I have to be honest. Our gates started, we're supposed to start working this week, and I don't feel my children are safer. I push a button and it rings to a phone, and I'm like, I'm John, here to bring Jane, my daughter, her lunch, and they buzz me in. And I don't feel my children any safer when the gate opens and the kindergarten yard's to the left and the first grade classes are to the right. The Washington Post tells us that most school shooters are 16 years of age. That's the median age. So we do need to address it. We do need to address bullying and how students feel in school, and so that they feel safe. I have friends at the Sean Vernon Feliciano Amazing Day Foundation who work with colleges, and I would ask them for resources for high school students. I would like to give schools, especially the high schools, enough counselors to be able to counsel the students so that we can avoid future problems and take care of our children better. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Deutsch?
I always feel that there's an open for improvement when it comes to safety and our students. Just last year, we had a new chief to the police department for Torrance, Chief Irvine, and she, together with our superintendent, Dr. Mannon, they drafted a letter and sent it out and shared it with all of the students and parents regarding their collaboration and how to maintain safety within our community as well as our campuses. We continue to work with, for police officers that are assigned full-time to patrol our schools. They are able to respond and investigate safety school threats, and then also they're working and collaborating with disaster drills. So there's plenty of opportunities, and we will continue to work with the community and our chief for safety in campuses. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. According to School Data Nerd, which is a database look at Los Angeles schools, North High students only had a 61% pass rate on AP exams, compared to 74% of students at South High and 83% of students at West High. How do you plan to direct the district to address this educational disparity? And I'll start with Ms. Liu.
Hi, thank you for the question. I have 2 kids, and my older one is in high school right now, and he also took the AP exam for this last school year. And although he did all right, he did pretty well, I am concerned about our scores overall in the district. To have such a disparity between 61% and 74% it's not acceptable for me. I am very proud and happy that South High School has such a high rate, but we got to look at the practices and what policies there are and what help we can give to the other parts of Torrance, North, Center, West, whatever it is, and talk to the teachers about it and see what things can we do as a district to bring up the scores for all of our students, because we are all unified in one system. Torrance students should not have a different form of instruction from one side to another, one having more than the other. I definitely believe in equity for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Deutsch, same question.
Well, I think that we should look at best practices within the high schools that are having high scores. What specifically is working for them? Why is it that these students are, we're having a higher percentage at the other schools? And then share it with all of the schools. I'm a firm believer of, shared best practices. To me, that is an indicator of making sure that each individual student, and there's equity within each individual student. And to me, that's been a very, very huge proponent for me in looking at the big picture in all of schools and all the students, but as well as AP, would be a good indicators to, let's find out specifically what's working at some schools and how can we apply them and work with the other schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gersten, same question.
The disparity is something that must be addressed. The first thing I would do is I would speak to Mr. Christopher Scheck. The principal of North High School is an extremely admirable man. I have the deepest respect for him, and I bet you he has wonderful ideas. I would want to hear, what could I do? What could the school district and the school board offer him to improve the situation? Because I know he has ideas. I'd also want to hear from the parents. I want to hear. I know they have ideas. They can tell me where our weaknesses and make suggestions to me. Our current school board, I don't feel like they're really listening to the parents, which is one of the main reasons why I'm running as a Torrance parent. So between Mr. Scheck and parents, I know we could come up with great solutions and direct the resources needed and create the programs to make our students even more successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Warmers.
Two things. One, I think if we grant Mr. Scheck a couple more years, we're going to see a huge improvement in the AP scores here at North. He's one of the best principals we have at TUSD. I can't say enough good things about him. You guys have got the best principal, in my opinion, that we have. Number two, I was the pointy end of the stick on trying to move the calendar so we could actually increase the quantity of days our students are in a classroom before they take the AP exam. I believe that this will make an improvement. I watched my oldest daughter take AP classes, and when they're done with the AP class, she spent 4 weeks sitting around playing on her phone. This will shift everything a couple weeks forward so that we have less of that kind of a situation. There's lots of reasons certain areas of a town will perform one way as opposed to another. We can't point our finger at any one specific thing and hope to solve that problem. What we can do is, as I've heard my colleagues talk about, try to raise all the ships at the same time. AP exams, 52% of our students take AP exams district-wide. So they become a very big part of our lives. And I got nothing I can say in 2 seconds, so.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Hunt.
As my wife always says, when you hear that kind of data, you always got to look at what's underneath that data. So often when you talk about the number of people passing, like Mr. Warmer said, every area is different. And if we were to look at our schools and ask ourselves overall, like low income, special needs, demographics, national ethnicities, is it all equal across the board? And I think that's what we have to look at. What I have to come to understand so often is that there is a disparity in terms of those issues. So when you have more of those kids at one certain school, the school is going to be a lot more elevated. When you have a lot more kids at a different kind of demographic, it's going to be a lot more different. And we got to focus on that area. And we can't just say we're going to be the best practices. The best practices at South may not be the best practices at North. They're radically different. We have to understand the unique situation that is at North and to determine how can we intervene to help these kids rise to the top. Every culture of a school is different, and everything's going to work differently in a different school. But we have to come together and understand to support and to build them up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next question. As we near completion of bond measures T and U, what will you do to maintain our facilities to avoid future bonds for taxpayers? And we're going to start with Mr. Gerson.
I've been working for Torrance Unified under our last 3 bond measures. That the first one, when I witnessed it, it was the mistakes were so horrible to me, and the safety. I remember having, as teachers, we had to jump over a large spool trying to get into the gate, completely unsafe. And then with more bond measures, I'm hearing high schools that the seating wasn't put amphitheater style, and building a new pool that's far back that nobody can see and nobody's allowed to participate, and not discussing how we're going to maintain it and how we're going to staff it. And the next thing I know, we have to close Hamilton Adult School. Yes, we do have to be much more fiscally responsible and making sure that our money is going toward the facilities we have and taking care of the needs of our community. When we're closing Hamilton Adult School at the same time we're talking about AP scores at North High, I think we see the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Liu?
I am glad that the bonds have passed several years ago. I think all our schools actually need the extra funds that are needed to upgrade the infrastructure. However, I would prefer that there are no more bonds in the future, and we just do with what we have. What we have done this past time, it's done, it's all set, it's all done in contract, the whole phase is almost going to be over. But I'm a community person, and for what money we have now, from now on, looking from now to the future, I believe that we can get the community to be more involved. I am a very community-oriented person. I've done many of my projects, volunteer projects for school, based from help of friends, school parents, and business community out there. I really believe that this is what it takes a village to raise a kid, and especially to give them proper education. So what I would want to do is minimize whatever costs that we have and seek out in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Han?
First of all, I want to thank Mike for passing that thing, the bonds. No matter how we look at it, it was a great thing. We see the school, yeah, the implementation of it was absolutely horrible. Even our school right now at Adams, we have windows you can't even open. There's no air conditioning, so it's hot and the kids are so again, I'm thankful. And again, we can't blame everything on that situation. Obviously, there's going to be an issue when you build. I understand that. Regarding the future, I think that the necessity of the bonds will not be needed, and the reason why is because we're moving to a different future. The future that we're heading toward is going to be more technology-oriented. It's going to be more online-based. It's going to be more driven by different modes of learning. And I think that we have to look into those modes of learning that may not need, for example, gymnasium or new buildings or whatever it may be. We can use what we have and to use technology and to use the modern advances to supplement what we have now so that our kids can receive the best education. And they're going to need that education because our future is not going to be the same as it is today. And so we have to prepare ourselves for that future. Rather than building buildings, put money to that.
Thank you. Mr. Wormers?
When I was approached to work on Measures Y and Z, my kids were at Arnold Elementary, which is an old brick school. It was in pretty good shape. It was like walking in a Back to the Future set because everything looked like it was 1962, but it was in pretty good shape. Then I saw pictures of Magruder's school. I saw pictures of South High's locker room. I saw pictures of hallways here at North. I saw pictures of the concrete that was broken apart here. And I thought I was looking at something not in the United States. That couldn't possibly be our schools. That's why I climbed on board to pass these. But I said from the very beginning, if we don't carve out dollars for maintenance and operations that we've cut immensely over the years, if we don't carve out dollars for this, in 15 years our schools will look the way they did when we started this bond process. And we've begun that process. We've carved out some money for our fields. For example, it takes about $5 million to go ahead and replace all the AstroTurf. So we're saving $500,000 a year in a fund that will apply that 10 years from now to replacing all the AstroTurf. We need to do similar things elsewhere in our budget. We can't, the most important thing we do is put a teacher in front of students, but that's not the only thing we do. We have to remember that.
Thank you. Ms. Deutsch?
So the whole focus with maintaining our new construction is going to be fiscally responsible as well as to be responsible in maintaining our and just help with our investments. And it's very, very challenging. Any of us that are homeowners that we've done a remodel, I mean, in years you will see that we need to definitely improve or maintain. It's also one opportunity though for us to look in the future to save money. And also, I personally feel that our Bond Oversight Committee has been very, very fiscally responsible and has been transparent in terms of how our construction has been going on, and hopefully once we complete them, we will be very responsible in terms of how maintaining them. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and following up, the Measure U was passed to construct the aquatic facility to serve students and the community. Presently, the board has passed a fee structure for group use starting at $200 to rent the full pool. What would be a reasonable amount for individual members of the community to pay to use the aquatic center, and how would they be able to access this facility? And I'm starting with Ms. Deutsch.
Well, I personally feel that we should open it up to the community, obviously. And if personal community members want to use the pool, they should definitely be open to doing that. This is something that I would definitely work with the school board and our school district to find out what kind of fee schedule we would be providing. I mean, obviously we have our plunge in the community in the city, but we definitely would be open to the conversation.
Thank you. Mr. Wormers.
Have you been to the aquatic center? It's not a plunge type pool. It doesn't have a shallow end. It's a large Olympic style pool, and we don't provide lifeguards. You have to provide your own lifeguards. We provide lifeguards for our students, but we don't provide lifeguards for outside services. That's part of the reason it's set up the way it is you have to form a club, you have to hire a lifeguard, you have to pay the money to come in and go swimming there. Because there's not a shallow end you can go splash in. You jump in and you're over your head in water. It needs to be opened up to the public, and I feel that it is stumbling in the right direction. The trouble is the quantity of cost involved in the process stuns a lot of people. But that's the same problem we've got with our gyms. That's the same problem we got with our cafeterias. We aren't here to subsidize the community's ability to use our facilities. That takes money out of our classrooms, and I don't want to do that. That's where we need to put our money, not take it out of there. But what I do want us to do instead is to come up with an equitable way of making all these facilities usable. We all are paying $500 million to have them updated. We all want to use them. So we need to work on that. We're not done.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Liu, same question.
Yes, hi. I think this is a great idea to open up the swimming pool to the public at times and set hours where the teams or the rented or the pre-obligated swimmers would not be using it. Oh, it would be great. It would be great so that my kids could, stop bugging their friends' parents to go over to their houses and bother them. But at the same time, I do have a Juris Doctorate background in terms of education, and I do see potential problems there could be if we don't hire a lifeguard. Lifeguards do cost a bit, and I think that what we can do is look into the reasonable fees that other public swimming pools might have, and also to make sure that whatever fee we charge to the public, to the open, is not going to be a profit-making revenue for our school district. And I also want to, furthermore, and possibly even having some of the pool right now is rented out to other places, and we make profit off that.
Thank you. Mr. Hahn.
I agree with all the statements up here regarding the equitable access to the pool. I think that obviously we paid it with the bond, and therefore we should all be able to have access to it. However, the fee structure should be reasonable and fair, but it cannot only be with that one-time cost. For example, if you just have a hire lifeguard, and that's fine, you just charge it for the lifeguard. But eventually, having the people walk on the cement, people bumping into things are going to break. That's not part of the fee structure. So you're going to have to pay a little bit more than the minimum amount that you're going to have to use it, right? Because wear and tear. After a while, the wear and tear is going to be there. And I understand that. And I think that if we can consider that so that we won't have to go into the budget to help repair those things, we can somehow create a fee that will help us to prepare for the future, as well as so that we can enjoy it now with the lifeguard fees, whatever it may be. I think that's a great idea. Not only pools, but the soccer fields, the football fields, every field. As a parent, soccer parent, it's impossible to buy fields in Torrance. It'd be great if we could open all the fields up too as well.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Gerson.
Obviously, running a pool is not something that teachers do. So I would first start with the city of Torrance, who has the plunge, and understand what does it take to run a pool facility. What is the cost behind it? Not just for our district, but look at other places. I want to look at other cities and the way that they run it. And I really want to understand all the costs involved so that we can set a fair structure. I agree with some of my colleagues up here who, it sounds like we should provide a lifeguard. I would want my children to have a lifeguard provided, in which case we would need to look at setting up times at which we could provide this service, and in that way of getting group time schedule for individuals of the city. In that way we could reduce the cost for individual citizens in that way. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next question. Torrance Unified School District has accepted the recommendation of the 7-Eleven Committee to lease, not sell, Hamilton School site. What do you envision for this surplus property? And we're going to start with Mr. Hahn.
First of all, I'm glad that the North Torrance Home Association and people have come together to at least come to an agreement on this. At least that wasn't sold, it's leased out. I think what needs to be done here, I think one of the things is, whenever we make a decision on something like that, I think that there has to be a collective vision for that. It's not about what you're going to lose, but somehow it's got to be communicated about what you're going to gain. And I think that's what we want to see here. We want to see something that will enable the community here in North Torrance to thrive as a result of leasing out this property. That's what I would want to see. I would want to see something that the community can come and celebrate. That, you know what, if we are going to make a decision, we're going to lease it out to, we should be able to bring all the North Torrance people in the community here as well to have a say you know what, and to have a voice about what they would want for the sake of the future. So create a vision for that area, not just simply a temporary thing of leasing out to somebody, but have a future vision for it.
Thank you. Mr. Gersten?
I was so sad to hear about the selling and now the leasing and all the confusion around it. The community should have been involved from the beginning. I think that part of the problem when I'm hearing that there are people who, oh, well, we don't have people attending at Hamilton Adult School. I think that was a failure of our district and our board. Nobody asked the community, what could we provide at this facility that would generate more interest and bring more people in? I think we are losing an amazing opportunity. I met a wonderful person who talked about how his wife learned English at the Hamilton Adult School, and where will future people like this family who came here, what will they do? So I'm very saddened by it. I wish we could do something to save Hamilton Adult School. I wish we would have taken that $7 million that we were getting from a developer and used that to save this and really engage the community more to provide better opportunities at that facility. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wormers?
Allow me to clarify, the $7 million we're getting from a developer, we're getting in $61,000 chunks as they sell off property. So we're not getting $7 million check, we're getting $61,000 checks only when they sell off a piece of property. The whole issue of involving the Hamilton school site was several different moving parts on it. First off, I personally wanted to push for a lease, because a lease would add $3 to $4 million to the general fund for the next 75 years. As it sits today, it's a $45 million asset if we sold it on the street. Again, as a businessman, I didn't get elected to take a $45 million asset and let it sit partially empty. We'll never put kids back on that site because it's too close to the 405. We wouldn't be allowed to by Ed Code. The state of California would intervene. So we're kind of stuck here. I understand there's some real deep feelings involved in this property in this community. I get that and I understand that, but this is not that simple of a thing to solve. And as a good elected official, I can't look at a $45 million asset or $4 million a year for 75 years and let it go.
Thank you. Ms. Liu?
Yes, hi. In regards to the Hamilton Adult School, I've looked into this, and in general, I believe that even though it is technically the property of the school district, I do believe that just like our city is, the regional residents have a big say in it. As a commissioner for over 14 years in the city of Torrance, when there are very controversial issues, we actually hold on a lot of hearings for the very general public to come in and speak. There are always going to be both sides of an issue, and I think what matters a lot is how many people come up and care and spend the evening out there to speak on how they feel. Just knowing what I've known so far is, I myself was a student at the adult school here locally. It wasn't at Hamilton because I don't live as close here. But if we do close that school, the only adult schools that are available are only in the southern part. So I think it's important that we do whatever we can to keep it here for us.
Thank you. Ms. Deutsch?
Just a couple of things. It is Hamilton Adult School, one of our adult schools, and there was a 7-Eleven committee that was formed with community leaders and community parents, and there were opportunities for the community to come and with open meetings to express your concerns and specifically what it was that the school district was very open and inviting the community to voice whatever concerns or issues that they had. One of the things that we definitely want to do is consider the future of our school district. To us, it's very important that we look at today as well as the future of all students. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, in light of recent contentious negotiations with the Torrance Teachers Association, how will you repair the relationship between the school board and the association? And Mr. Wormers, I'm starting with you.
Fascinating. I've begun the process. I reached out to Deb DeBush, Julie Schenkel, and Kim Lee, 3 of the TTA members. It got off to a good start, and then I seem to have shot myself in the foot, and I'm trying to recover from that. It is going to be truly a one day at a time kind of effort to rebuild this relationship. We drifted so far apart in the negotiation process, so we have to try to get back together and understand what each of us are trying to say. I really believe that we can get back on the same page. You got to remember, I got elected right after we had the Great Recession. In my second or third meeting, I laid off 150 teachers. It was the most painful thing I'd ever done in 40-some years of life. I don't want to ever do that again, and I want to get to the point where I don't ever have to think about doing that again. And I think we can, if we can rebuild the relationship with the TTA, get it functional again, get it where we understand each other and we agree with each other and we're working together, we can achieve something. The way it is now, it'll be pretty rocky.
Thank you. And Ms. Deutsch, what's yours?
I have always had an open communication with a group of teachers that represent the teachers union. I always felt and have and still continue to feel that my rapport with the teacher union representatives that I have met with, that whenever we met, that if issues ever came up or there were concerns, that I would take them to the superintendent, and I would hope that resolutions came about. I will continue to do that. I personally feel that my intention, if I am elected again to the school board, is to maintain that open dialogue and continue to listen and to be open to whatever concerns or issues they have, because I definitely want to have an incredible relationship with teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Gerson?
I think that being a Torrance teacher makes me already the best person to start to bridge that gap. By putting me on the school board, I will have to give up my teaching position, but my feelings and my relationships will exist, and I will be able to help mend a lot of the wounds and give voice to where there really seem to be none. Mr. Steffen gave a great commentary before the vote and said it's going to take several years. Well, I think with the current school board, it will take several years. But if you choose to bring in new members, such as myself, then I think that healing process will decrease immensely, and we'll bring teachers back, and we'll bring the district together, and we'll do good work for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Hahn?
First of all, I think that on both sides, there are good people on the board as well as the TTA board. I don't want that to be misunderstood. I have tremendous respect for our board members as well as for the TTA as well. But sometimes I think that it helps to bring a new perspective. And I think the reason why so often is that even though there may be open dialogue, people might still be closed-minded. You know, you all seen the Kavanaugh hearings. You see the Democrats and Republicans, and you're like, oh my, can they not open their minds a little bit? But everyone is so deeply entrenched in what they want to see that they can't hear each other's voices. And sometimes maybe it brings someone on the outside, maybe someone who doesn't fit in between two parties, that maybe could see a unique perspective, to bring that perspective in and to bring healing. Because when trust is eroded, it is very difficult to get that trust back. There will always be skepticism, there will always be a sense of doubt, and that's why I think that sometimes it does help, and that's why we have the opportunity to bring new people in when we vote.
Thank you. And finally, Ms. Liu?
It is very sad that we actually don't have trust between the district and the teachers right now. I think that it's very important for all our students and for our community parents, kids, to work together. And this is actually one of my reasons I want to come in. With my background, I am not a teacher. I don't have family members who are teachers. I'm not on the school board. I'm very much in the middle. I am very neutral. And the way my personality is, I am very approachable, very open, so open that don't ever play poker with me. But anyway, a little too much, but sorry I drifted off. But I definitely want to get suggestions from both sides. I want to hear from the teachers what things we can do to make them, to repair this relationship that that's been hurt and damaged. I want to hear from the board, the current board, and the administrators to see what things we can do, what leeways from both sides have to give and take.
Thank you.
Okay, 10% of districts in the state of California have merit systems. Torrance Unified School District is one of them. What is your understanding of the merit system and what does it promote? And we're going to start with Mr. Gerson.
I'm a little confused if you're referring to VAMs or what do you mean by merit systems? I know that we currently have a teacher pay structure based upon experience and education. Classified employees is different. As far as accountability goes, other certificated, like principal and assistant principals, are not evaluated on a regular basis. I know principals who 5-10 years later have not seen an evaluation. That's one of my big three. I think that all members of Torrance Unified should have evaluations. They need to experience it. They need to set goals. They need to improve and work to their highest capacity. So in the current system, we have no administrator accountability system, and I would love to see one implemented. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Liu?
If you're referring to the merit systems for teachers, there's a reason why there's only 10% out there and the majority of it not being on a merit, but rather on a tenure system. I've traveled a lot around the world, and I'm really embarrassed and ashamed that teachers, the profession, is one of the most respected, it should be the most respected profession out there in the world, but yet our country is actually having teaching and education is one of the lowest priority that the government spends its money on. That, of course, in turn out to be a lower salary and benefits and respect and understanding to this profession that we very much need. Teachers can easily make a lot more money at private schools or in a private corporate industry out there. So we need to make sure our teachers are happy teachers, happier students, and therefore our students will come up a lot better for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Deutsch?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question just so I can understand it?
10% of districts in the state of California have merit systems. Torrance Unified School District is one of them. What is your understanding of the merit system and what does it promote?
So if we're referring to teachers, to me, that is the accountability and performance of individual teachers. And I support that. And I feel that if there is any issue or concern about that I would be open to discussing it. But as far as I can understand, if it's only 10% of the school districts and we are one of them, that would be what I would do. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hahn?
I'm just trying to understand what this merit system is. And so, to be honest, I'm not going to deceive you guys. I got zero clue what this merit system is. So I'm going to have to, I was trying to listen in, and it didn't seem like I got any clarity up here about what the merit system is. So I'm going to kind of have to decline even trying to answer this question. I apologize for that.
Thank you.
Mr.
Warmers?
You didn't Google it? The way I understand the merit system has nothing to do with teachers. It has to do with our non-certificated employees. And the merit system is a method of keeping track of their process of moving up the scale so they get pay raises and move up their employment positions. Because each non-teacher employee has a different path. So the merit system helps keep them on that particular path so they can continue to move up. And it also, if I remember correctly, allows them to make a shift from one particular group to another and still keep their merit with them. It's a part of the process that the merit system feeds. It has nothing to do with teachers, it has everything to do with our non-certificated employees.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm glad I was last.
I wish you were first.
It would have been a whole lot more dangerous.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the state of California changed school funding with the introduction of local control funding formula, also known as LCFF. With this, the state also introduced Local Control Accountability Plan, or LCAP. What is your understanding of the plan, and what has been your participation, if any, with these initiatives? And we'll start with Ms. Deutsch.
So actually the local control funding formula and the LCAP, I really have started from when it began. It was an incredible learning curve. but we all had to learn and embrace it and try to figure out what specifically was going to be categorized, because there weren't going to be any more categorical funds per se. So what we needed to do is we needed to break down and submit this incredible plan, and we invited community leaders to help us with, and there were different category representatives that needed to be involved to formulate and create the LCAP. Now, the local control funding formula is a formula that's broken down based on certain categories, one of them being English language learners, as well as foster, okay, sorry, I just,
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Warmers,
It's
same question.
physically impossible to do any kind of deep dive into the LCAP or the LCFF in a minute. I'm not even going to try. I will tell you that I don't always agree with, this is an effort on Jerry Brown to eliminate categorical funding from the past. It's a smart move on his part because he needed to restructure funding. And what he's done is forcing the school districts to come up with these huge, gigantic plans that have got lots of T's to cross and lots of I's to dot, and then track the performance of them. It's a good idea. My problem is we're underfunded. As district statewide, nationwide, California is 46 out of 50 in funding. The great state of Mississippi spends more money on their kids than we do. It's embarrassing. I'm the only politician you'll hear say this. We have to fix Prop 13. I don't want to eliminate it. I don't want to throw grandma out of her house, but it's broken and we have to fix it. Jerry Brown's right. We have to do something the way we spend money on our schools, but one of the first things we have to do is spend more money on our schools. We do not spend nearly enough. The LCAP and the LCFF, I'll talk for hours about it if you want to see me afterwards. I'm not going to waste your time now.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Hahn?
Obviously, the LCAP, there has 8 priorities that the state requires, right? And you got to focus on those 8 priorities. But my understanding of the LCAP, my experience with the LCAP is in our school site council. The school site council is where, the reason why you get this idea of the LCAP is that you get community involvement, right? So the school site council, you have the principal, you have a teacher, you have parents, all coming together, and there's an LCAP plan, right? And so you discuss that LCAP plan. Here's the thing though, when you go there, when you're a parent, you have no clue what she's talking about. There's all these categories, all this budget, all this money, right? And so therefore, basically, she's just simply asking us to stamp it, because we're not educated enough to understand what all these categories are, right? And so every principal, in my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, they have to come up with the LCAP plan every year. How they're gonna use the money, how they're gonna fix those priorities that they're supposed to focus on, and how they're gonna spend it. I think that we need to have more teacher involvement, more parent involvement to make sure that is the priority of our school and what we want to see.
Thank you. And Ms. Liu?
Yes, hi. Although I'm not on the school, my understanding of the local control formula is instead of the state, and most of our school funding comes from our state and not anywhere else due to the Constitution, but is that the Sacramento will give us a big chunk of money starting in 2015, I believe it was, and just let us decide what we want to do, how much money we want to spend on this subject or that subject, or how much money we want to spend on teachers versus infrastructure or books or resources of that kind. That's my understanding of it in a very, very summarize a simple way of saying it. I believe that with my background in seeing how the California legislature works in Sacramento, there are a lot more ways we can bring about to have more money to help in our system. And I think this is one of the major duties of being on a school board member, is to figure out what the budget should be and where all the money should go into. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you. Mr. Gerson?
In 21 years of teaching, this is my 3rd go-around on school site council. I'm in the 2nd year of this term. And 3 meetings is not enough for parents to learn, not enough for parents to give their input. When a principal comes in and goes, hey, here's the plan, here's how we're spending the money, and yes, as one of my colleagues has already said, it's overwhelming. And we need to take more time with parents and explain how much money, what we can spend it on, and where it's going, and generate more ideas and allow the community to really get involved in the plan. Because in multiple schools, I don't see that right now. So I think we need to have more days. We need to have more people involved. I want to, more community members should be able to give feedback to parents and really do a good job of making sure that we're spending the money where we value it. And then the accountability portion. If you're into the next school year and the new people come up, you may not hear how your school did. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next question. With the creation of individual school site nonprofit foundations such as at Riviera Elementary, where the foundation has hired vocal, music, and computer teachers, what would you do to offset these inequities within schools? And we're going to start with Ms. Liu.
Hi. And in terms of these nonprofit foundations that you're referring to, I believe it is the PTA that the Riviera School and specifically raised their money and to be able to hire their own teachers. This is definitely not government money that they're using, because I don't, if it is in any way government money that is being spent, school district money that's spent, it has to be completely equitable. Meaning, if it goes to, in Riviera Elementary School, it should also go into the West schools, North schools, Center schools. But if the parents get together and they themselves put in all the effort and they donate their own money into it, I believe that they should be able to be allowed to hire their own people that would supplement the education of their own kids. It's similar to us hiring a tutor or asking a friend to help out with our kid. That helps our own child. As long as it's not government money, I'm okay with it.
Thank you. Mr. Han?
So for me, that's what I did. At Adams Elementary School, I started the Adams Elementary Educational Alliance. And the basic idea was that I would organize a fundraising event, which is our golf tournament, every year, which raised about $20,000 for our school. And basically what I did was get business partners in our local community to help our schools. And the beautiful thing about it was that it allowed the principal to utilize those funds as she sees fit. You know, it's basically, there's no regulation. When you have PTA, the funds are designated. There's very limitation what you can and cannot use it for. Whereas if you do an alliance and outside fund, you can use it however you want it, for technology, for staff, for tutoring, you name it, you can do it. As long as we have the school site council keep accountability for that, she had the freedom to do what she would like. To me, I really believe that, because even at a small school like Adams, we only have 430 students. But you have parents who get involved, who want to make a difference, why not? We should empower them and help them across all the schools. So if other schools want to do it, I would love to help them start it off.
Thank you. Ms. Deutsch?
If we're referring to alliances, I would say there's maybe half a dozen schools currently right now that have this type of incentive to raise funds. I am a firm believer of equity, and I don't think that we are being equitable when it comes to all students and all school sites, when there are certain school sites that have the ability to raise additional monies versus other schools that do not have the ability to do that. I find it, though, that it's wonderful that there are schools that have that ability and the parent volunteerism to drive and collect and support those. But it would be beneficial to be more equitable and to possibly identify other. Sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Wormers?
Running out.
9 years ago when I started this, Michael Beasley sits right over there. He can raise his hand and wave at everybody. He and several other people ganged up on me and took me aside and told me the advantages of raising funds locally. He was doing it for UConn, had people from Riviera doing it there. Emotionally, esoterically, I'm against it. I voted for it, yes, every year because we're so badly funded. I don't like it. I really don't want to see us do it, but right now, 20 years ago, there was a local gentleman's club that had a golf tournament, and they had a $10,000 check and nobody would take it because it was a gentleman's club. During that crash, during the 2009 crash, I would have posed with the check. We were so desperate for cash, I would do anything for it. Again, I don't like it, but I voted yes for it every year. Mark Steffen, who's also in our audience, has done a really good speech every time because he votes no as why we shouldn't do this. And I couldn't agree with him more, but I can't go to a school site and say, you guys can't raise funding. You need your money, I understand. Sell drugs if you have to. I understand.
Thank you. Mr. Gerson?
When my daughter started, she started at one of the 3 Title I elementary schools, and now both my children go there. And I'm not going to go tell another parent that they can't raise money for their child. but I'm going to take care of my children. And as a community member, I volunteered and I ran financial literacy enrichment sessions. Our community, even if we don't have as much money, we have just as much talent. I would be going out to the parents and finding out what can we do, what can we as parents add and give our children the same experience. So I may not be able to take money away from other parents who give that to theirs, but I most certainly can still offer my children wonderful experiences, the same experiences, because we have a talented community, and I tap into that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the final question. What is your vision for education in this community? And where do you see the district in the next 10 years going forward? And I'll start with Mr. Hahn.
As I stated at the very beginning, my vision for the school is really simple. There are 3 S's, right? The success, we want our kids to achieve success in whatever avenue that they choose, whether it be academia, whether it be arts, whether it be athletics, that we enable them to pursue their dreams and to be successful at it, and to figure out how we can make them more successful at what they want to do. Second, obviously, safety. Again, we have to make sure that our kids are in a safe environment, not only from physical threats, but from emotional threats as well. From anti-bullying to make sure that intruders don't come in, that we don't have on-site school shootings or whatever it may be. And obviously, we do have issues, and I think that we have to better understand how can we be able to avoid those issues regarding our schools. Even recently in the Daily Breeze, we know the article what happened in Cali Mayor. Those things happen, and I think that we have to have a better understanding to prevent those issues happening. Lastly is stability. We have to be able to prepare ourselves for the future. Again, with technology changing, with things that are changing in the world, we have to be ready for that today. Stability, by the way. That's
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hahn. Mr. Gerson.
My big 3 first start with safe schools and strong conversations, getting the community involved in what we can really do to protect our children. And as I said, more counselors and programs to make our schools less bullying and more comfortable. We need to deal with our fiscal responsibility. We need to use our money in the right places in the way that the community feels and what they value. We need to reflect that. And then everyone needs to be accountable. The administrator accountability system that I would love to see implemented so that all people in our district are given, the opportunity to show their highest standards and are given the opportunity to improve. Also, choosing the next school superintendent is going to be incredibly important. And that is really what's going to determine the culture of our school district and how welcoming families are going to be and their input, and how welcome teachers and classified employees are going to be. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Deutsch, same question.
So, to me, there's a lot. I have a lot of priorities, but one of them is the 21st century classroom with integrated technology. In order for us to compete with our neighboring school districts, we need to have our students prepared and given the adequate technology to compete. The other thing is that we consistently have high school graduation rates. This year was 96%. I mean, a couple years ago it was up to 99%. So I want to maintain that level of excellence. Safety to me is high priority. We should never be comfortable with what we have. We should always be aware and work with our community leaders, the fire department, police department, to ensure that our students and staff and teachers are safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Liu.
Hi, I have so many visions for our school district, especially 10 years from now. But one of them being, very importantly, is to have our school district be one of the top school districts in our state. And we have very much a lot of potential here that we can have. We have a great resource being located here in the South Bay with all the surrounding community, businesses. There's just so much going on. I want us, every single 34 schools of our school district, to be a distinguished school recognition or blue ribbon recognition that they have. Like I mentioned earlier in my opening, I want to make sure our schools are up to date and to prepare all students for the challenges and the opportunities of the 21st century. The economy is changing. What the kids need, the kind of knowledge that they need, the kind of skills that they need to come from our education. I myself have been educated for a very long time. I like to believe that I was a very good student myself. I'm still always taking notes at all times, but technology is very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wormers.
I don't agree with a lot of things Jerry Brown says, but a few years ago he gave a speech where he said, all of us have attended school, so we all have an opinion on how it should be operated and how it should be run. Yes, he's right. We all have an opinion. If you do this like I've been doing for 9 years, you talk to a lot of people who've got a lot of opinions. I've now fallen back to where I rely a lot on the experts. They seem to know what they're talking about. They seem to understand how the classroom works, and I've got a bit of a trump card on this. I come from a long line of teachers. My dad, my mom, my brother, sister-in-law, aunts and uncles, they're all in the classroom today. Well, my dad's retired, my mom's retired, but they're all in the classroom, or we're in the classroom, so I understand how teaching actually works on a ground floor level, but it's really difficult to get outside your head and outside your classroom and learn new things while you're there. The old adage, if you're out there to drain the swamp, it's hard to do that when you're up to your butt in alligators. So I look to where we've got experts, where we can learn things from other school districts. My little brother teaches in Colorado, and he's been in RTI for over a decade and a half. Those are the kind of things that I'm looking towards. So that's where my vision lies.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes all of our questions, and we are now going to have closing statements, and we're going to start with Mr. Wormers.
Here we go, bragging again. Okay. I am someone who enjoys the responsibility of leadership, and I have a military background, so I both know how to lead and follow. That's part of me spending 4 years in the Air Force. I've also been a small business owner for over 20 years, so I've signed the front of paychecks. I understand how businesses operate, and like it or not, the school district is a very large business. There are 1,100 school districts in California. We're the 84th largest. Because of these experiences, I feel I have the ability to make hard decisions, and I've done them a couple times. Like I said, my second or third meeting, we had to lay off 150 people. That was a very hard decision. I've proven this over the past 2 terms of the school board, starting with the difficult times of the Great Recession. That I want to make sure everyone understands that. During my time on the school board, I've watched our employees, some of the best in the South Bay, get better every year. It's been an exciting thing to do. And I realized that we spend 88% of our budget on salary and benefits. It's worth the money. We've implemented new state and federal mandated standards and programs. We remodeled all of our schools. We've had new gyms, auditoriums, state-of-the-art aquatic center. It's been a busy few years. I'm proud of the work I've done. I hope you'll let me do it again. I do. Here I'm hurrying for no reason.
Yes,
You've done
this is
such a great job so
a
far.
minute and a half. I forgot to mention that.
I'll back up. We've implemented, not that this is stressful or anything. We've implemented many new state and federal mandated programs. These programs are actually directed by the state of California to us. It's not something we reach out in the sky and grab. It's not a decision that we're going to go do this because we think it makes good sense. A lot of this is driven by the state of California. During all these new changes, we've actually remodeled every school site. We're adding auditoriums at all the high schools. We remodeled the auditorium at Torrance High. We're adding gyms at all the middle schools, and we built an aquatic center, a very nice aquatic center. I'm proud of the work I've done. I hope you guys can support me again and do another term. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Liu?
Okay, so it's a minute and a half, but I don't want to take up too much of your time, but thank you again very much for the Homeowner Association and all the board members here. I know putting on a candidates forum like this takes a lot of work. It's not just, hey, let's all meet up, and go for a rented place. So I want to thank you very much sincerely for the community involvement that you're allowing all of us to be involved in, and of course the audience. But please, if you did not pick up one of these in the back, where they're allowing all of us to have a little flyer, a little campaign material to be out there. If you haven't picked one up, please go to my website. It is bettylou.com. My little humble flyer is made by my very great campaign assistant, Tony Hale, right there. Please wave. Please go bother him if we don't have enough flyers. He'll photocopy some more. And he helped me put on websites and put some of our pictures. And you can find a lot more of how to contact me over there if you have any questions that weren't addressed at this forum, or if you have any concerns, anything you want to, please contact me. So I just want you to know that I am very approachable and open. Like I said earlier, I have been endorsed by a lot of our local leaders from west to east, north to south, everywhere, all about, and because they know me, and I've been in this community for a very long time, with my background being a community organizer, and also you can vote for 3 people. I hope to be one of yours votes. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Han?
Again, I want to thank all of you for coming out tonight. The reason why I'm impressed with all of you today is because you're just like me. When I'm not an educator, I'm just someone that really cares about our schools. Actually, you're better than me, because I never came to one of these things before. And so that's why this is a whole new experience. So I want to applaud you for making that effort and to really care. We all do our own part in whatever we can. And that's why I see myself as a person who's running. You know, I'm not an educator, even though I'm surrounded by education. My wife's an RTI teacher. My sister is a teacher at Centralia Valley District. My brother-in-law is a professor at Cal State Fullerton in higher education. One of my closest friends is a professor of higher education at APU. I'm surrounded by education. But for me, the way that I feel like what I can bring is to bring a sense of consensus building, to bring about reconciliation. That's my gift. I think my gift is really to help people come along together, even on opposing sides, to come to a decision that's most effective. And I think that sometimes you have to make those hard decisions, and I'm able to make those hard decisions. I've been a pastor for 17 years. I started my church 17 years ago, still pastoring the same church. And the thing is, all these issues always come up, but I have to determine how can I help people along the way. And that's what I think I can do for the school board as well, to bring about different, to see different things and to bring a consensus about it. That's my hope for our district as well. I have a card back there as well if you want more information about who I am and what I believe. And hopefully, as you heard today, again, I love the board. I love Mike and Don and Terry and Martha. They did a great job. Same time, I love the TTA as well, so I hope we can bring it all together.
Thank you. Ms. Deutsch?
I first want to thank you for allowing me to come and speak. I bring a strong foundation to the role of being a school board member, including extensive community volunteer leadership, practical experience on the school board during a period of monumental change in school construction, academic improvement, state funding changes, and also as a PTA parental leader that I have been. That extends from being a school PTA president to the top leadership role overseeing all of the PTA districts in the state of California. This experience, I believe, provides a very valuable and unique platform for the success of our school district. My hope and vision as a school board member going forward is that I can continue to work on initiatives, programs, and strategies that enhance our schools physically, that raise our academic success, and provide more opportunities for students, that keep pace with technology changes, and that continues to provide a safe and secure learning environment at our school sites. If you want an experienced leader with integrity and a solid track record of strong educational knowledge, please vote for me. If you want an empathetic, kind, and compassionate volunteer that is passionate for all students to succeed, please vote for me. And if you want someone that's not afraid to ask tough questions and get answers, vote for me. November 6th, Martha Deutsch for school board. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Mr. Gerson?
I want to share a quick story. I went to the local 99 union and I asked for their endorsement. And there were some county people there and they pushed on me and they went, Mr. Gerson, what are you going to do to give us more money, more salary, more benefits? And I said, no, it's not about that in Torrance. Right now, it's about our working conditions and how we're treated as certificated classified employees. And the county people pushed back at me hard. And they were like, no, that sounds great, but what about more money, more benefits? And it was your custodians, and it was your bus drivers, and your dispatchers, and your facilities people who raised their voices from the audience, and they came and they pushed back on their county leaders and said, no, he's right. And they supported me in my endorsement because they want the same thing that our teachers want. They want the same thing that I want as a Torrance parent. They want the same thing that I want as a Torrance teacher. They want the same thing that each of you sitting in this room who cared enough to come out. They want their voices heard. They want to actually be listened to and their opinions taken. And they want the respect that we deserve. And that's the reason why I came and I'm running for school board, because I feel the same way. I hope all of you will support me. I thank you all for coming out tonight and giving me this opportunity to share my feelings and viewpoints with you. I hope you agree with me, and I look forward to you coming to the polls with me on November 6th. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
This concludes our candidate forum for school board. I'd like to wish all the candidates best of luck, and I want to thank everyone for coming out this evening, and safe drive home.